Hello and welcome to From Dial Square to Wares, Mesut Island Discs. Hope you're all well. We're waiting for one more guest, but we're making a start now. So, who have we got here? We've got one that's been on before and a couple of newbies. So, Jason, you've been on before. How are you, mate? All right?
I'm not too bad, Andrew. How are you, pal?
Very, very good. Thank you very much. And are you okay? I mean, I don't want to say, oh, during this strange and unprecedented times, and everyone says all the time, Jason. But how you coping, mate?
I'm getting fatter. I'm bored. I've had a guts full. I got to be honest, with you. But hey,
Did Arteta not send you a training regime?
I'm surprised he hasn't been on the phone today. I'm gutted. I got to be honest. I'm beginning to miss it.
Your daily weigh-ins.
Well,
should have stayed on that treadmill, mate. I did tell you.
Anyway, I've got a bike on the back there. It's got to go back out.
And we've got Sai the Gouda with us. How are you, Sai?
Yeah, very well, thanks. A bit like you guys, putting on weight and trying to do some of the right things during this time, but failing miserably, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I didn't get my delivery of my treadmill or rowing machine and mats and all that sort of stuff. So
No.
yeah, I'm the same. But as I said to you off air, I've been lucky enough to carry on working during this time. So my life's not changed too much because I'm still pretty much housebound most of the time anyway. And you, Chappers, how are you?
I'm all right, thanks, man. I had a narrow escape with death just earlier on. I think I messaged you. Yeah, I messaged you about it, man. I found one of those false widow spiders. I was just bunging a bit of washing in the washing machine, I suppose. Just bunging a bit of washing in the washing machine. Just took it out of the bag, and this thing just flew, landed in the cat bowl. I thought that looks a bit like one of those. I managed to. It was sort of swimming around, so I managed to sort of scoop it up. And
doing the backstroke or
well, it was trying to get out, but it couldn't quite get out. I don't know. It's a bit more of a sort of belly flop type thing, really. But don't worry about it. It's not my problem anymore. I didn't have the heart to kill it, so it's next door neighbour's garden's problem now. Hopefully they're not watching.
You know what? It is weird that you say that though, because I had what I thought were like normal insect, but I am going to go into this. It's incredibly boring for the listeners and the viewers and all that. But I got bitten on the leg, and I thought it must have been mosquito or something. My foot's really swollen now. It's like really swollen. It's been about 4 days. I was wondering.
Yeah.
I said to my missus, I wonder whether I got bitten by one of those spider things. But
yeah, they do swell up, man.
Anyway, like I said, incredibly boring for everyone listening. But we'll move on from that. So yeah, Mesut Island Discs. So I think you're all familiar with the format. We had been sort of discussing it beforehand. It's just a bit of fun to get us through these times of non-football, but luckily for not much longer. Only a couple of weeks now till we kick off, which is quite exciting now. I think I'm actually getting a little bit excited about it.
Me too.
So we are going to go through certain things that you take with you to the desert island. It's nothing at all to do with Desert Island Disc. It's just complete coincidence. But we're going to work round clockwise, and we'll go to you first, Sai. And the first category is you are stranded on the desert island, and you've got one goal from the Arsenal archives that you can take with you to watch whenever you like. Which one have you gone for, and why?
Do you know what? I really enjoyed thinking about this one, because it brought home to me how many there were I could pick. And I actually have a list in front of me. And up until about 10 minutes ago, I was still completely and utterly undecided. And I even had my young son with me, showing him some classic goals. And he wasn't that interested, to be fair. Maybe he will be when he's a bit older. But I've gone for, and you guys might have had this in your top 10 somewhere, Tony Adams against Everton at Highbury, last day of the season. Just that.
Incredible.
Just something about watching it back as well, with the commentary, the fact it was Steve Bold that put him through. That to me, it just sort of summed up everything that I loved about Arsenal, or love about Arsenal. So I've gone for that one as my winner, but there were some other
Yeah, I was going to
noticeable.
say, tell us a couple of the other ones you had written down.
Well, I particularly like. I remember I was looking through some of the archives the other day. Ian Wright against Everton in '93 at Highbury as well, where he sort of
Is that
volleys
he
the ball
flicked
up.
it over the? Yeah,
Yeah,
he flicked
that's
it over
it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Just beautiful, excellent, vintage Ian Wright. Really, really like that. There was a David Rocastle goal against United at Old Trafford where that beautiful kit, Chip Schmeichel, love that as well. And, there must be about 50 on my list from Thierry Henry. So very difficult not to have a Thierry Henry winner, I think, amongst that. But for the nostalgia, I just went for Adams on that.
Do you know what? It's proving really popular, and I can't blame anyone at all. I mean, it's so good they made a statue out of it, didn't they?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, so yeah, incredible moment, and it's got to be down as not just the goal, but the whole moment, everything about it. It's just one of the most beautiful historic moments I think that we've got to look back on in recent history, at least. Fantastic choice, mate. And what about you, Chappers?
There we go. Unmute. Well, I did have a big think about it, but to be honest with you, I went with my initial thought just because it just evoked so much emotion for me then, and actually watching it and just hearing the commentary as well, still evokes that emotion for me now, and that's got to be Thierry Henry's Return of the King goal against Leeds in the FA Cup. It was just an absolutely special moment, I mean, I remember when he first started training with the team, and you were kind of like, oh, wouldn't it be so great to have him back and all that sort of stuff. And all of a sudden, oh my God, he's on loan, this is amazing. And I mean, I just remember thinking that night, it was just kind of a mixture of sort of dread and excitement, we really want this to happen for him, but what if actually, he's because he's got the sort of hobo Henri beard, what if he's lost his touch, sort of thing, you know what I mean? And I mean, Shamak comes off, and at this point you're thinking, well, there's you've really got to do something here, Thierry. Do you know what I mean? But beautiful ball from Alex Song, who's not really renowned for that sort of thing, really, but beautiful ball from Song, and he just did what Henry does in that position every time. Just opens his body up and side foots it into to the left of the keeper, into the right corner, and the place erupts. And I erupted, and I think every gooner that was seeing that just felt that. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say I cried, boys. I did cry.
It's a proper hair stand up on your arm moment, isn't it? And
totally.
You just lose your bowels, but in a good way, It's one of those moments, isn't it? Totally.
Sure thing.
And I mean, his beard nowadays, it's weird. It's that, that expanding foam that builders use. Yeah, it's like that, isn't it? That's been painted black. It's just odd. But
yes, it is. It is strange.
It doesn't real.
But we'll forgive him that.
Yeah,
because he's a legend.
He can do what he likes. He's Thierry Henry at the end of the day. I know, but yeah, great choice. And what about you, Jace?
It's also poison chalice, isn't it? There are so many goals which mean so much to a certain time. Like I mentioned the Adams goal. There's Thomas at Anfield.
Well, exactly. This is what I like about this format. And sorry to, but it's just that it doesn't even have to be the best goal.
No,
obviously, it's just something. Maybe something that's special to you because you were there.
And that's the thing, isn't it? There's that one. There's the Bergkamp goal against Newcastle. Yeah, I remember being in Cardiff on the beer. It was in Rugby International Day, and it was after the game, and the pub's full of rugby fans, and it stopped for the Bergkamp goal, and the whole pub stopped. Okay, there's about 300 people in the pub. They stop and they erupt into in celebration at this goal, and everybody's in wonderment. Before me, it's the Rambo goal. I'm a massive Rambo fanboy.
Never.
Shocker. But the goal against Galatasaray, I mean,
oh, what a goal!
Watching Chesney's face and Sanogo's face, and and Santi grubbing the boots, and just everybody's expression at that, and mine at the time as well.
It's amazing. It's one of the most underrated goals of all time, I reckon.
I don't think anybody's hit the sweetest shot ever.
No,
but,
no.
You know, like you say, this is the wonderful thing about the format you come up with here. It's what's special to you. Do you know what I mean? And the boys are talking about goals here, and I remember my emotions at each time with those goals, and you know, thinking about how happy I was for Thierry, how what it was to watch Tony Adams, and I was in the pub in Armanford, and my mate who captained the Arsenal youth team used to be Charlie Nix, Anthony Rees. We're hugging each other. Well, looking at Tony Adams lifting the Premier League trophy, and and all the the chant.
Yeah.
It's just these fantastic moments which we're so lucky to have.
We are indeed, and we're just in the nick of time, like Mr. Ben appearing from the shop. We've got our last guest, last but not least, Gav. How are you, Gav?
I'm so sorry, Dad. For some reason, I had it in my head. It was 8 o'clock.
We'll let you.
So
off.
I'm all and
heard it all before.
Yeah, no, and I promised. Me mum, God bless her or bless her, bought us an Xbox yesterday, and I haven't had a sniff of any chance of getting anywhere near it with the missus and the kids. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you have to stay up in the night time.
Yeah, no, but I just got to go on some racing game, and I was getting into that, and I said, right, I'm just gonna get myself ready and work out what sort out the rest of my night, and then I had a couple of messages from you lot, but like I say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Lateness is no excuse, but you did tell me 8 o'clock.
Perfect timing, anyway, because it's your turn now, and I say it's we're on the first category, so you're on your Mesut Island, and you've got a goal that you could take to watch whenever you liked, and it could be any kind of goal. As we were saying earlier, it doesn't have to be the best goal Arsenal have ever scored. Maybe something that's means something to you. Maybe it's something that of your youth, something when a particularly special game to you, whatever. But what goal have you chosen, Gav?
Well, I would go for the Arsenal Anfield 1988 in the League Cup. Barnes scored for Liverpool, and then David Rocastle scored an absolute peach from the outside of the box.
Oh yes, of course.
Zero backlift. God knows how many of us were there that night, but there was more of us there that night than there was at the end of that season. Believe it or not. But yeah, no, that goal. It's my first out of London away game as well. I think I was, 15, 16. 16. Yeah, I was just turned 16. And it was my first London away game, midweek, away at Anfield. And like I say, we come away with the 1-1 draw, and it was just a peach of a goal from Rocastle, and it was that was an eventful evening, put it that way.
Well, you must be, pretty much the same age as me, because I was 16 that year as well, and my goal was a Rocastle goal from that season as well, but it was the one against Middlesbrough, where
fair enough.
He took it from. Do you remember it? He took it from. I think it was a Mickey Thomas pass. Took it on the right hand side, right wing, and he just literally just set off on a run, mazy run around 4 or 5 players, and stuck it in the top right postage stamp off the post.
Yeah.
It would. Amazing.
Yeah, no, it's scary. And like I say, I mean, you've got to think about the one he done away at Old Trafford as well. He's got a feature away at Old Trafford around that sort of time. It's scary what he would have done on today's pitches.
He would be worth so much money. I mean, he would still thrive in today's game, I think, because not only did he have all the skill in the world, but he was as strong as an ox, and he had a proper attitude on him as well when it came to sort of, he wouldn't let anyone brush him off the ball. He was just an amazing player.
It's where he would have played. It's what position he would have played in the modern game. It's whether or not he would. I mean, he was good enough to be a number 10, but at the same point, he could also play a central midfield role or wide midfield role as well. He could literally have played anywhere in midfield. He could play anywhere but number 9, basically.
Yeah,
I mean, you could have played him left back, and he would have been a quality left back. He had it all.
Yeah,
He had
I
it all.
agree. I agree. He was my favourite all-time player, and one of the worst moments I've ever had. Well, it is the worst moment, I think. Apart from losing finals or whatever, I was at a game versus Millwall where he nearly died about 10 metres away from me, right in front of me, and he swallowed his tongue, and Gary Lewin had to break his jaw to get his fish's tongue back out his throat.
Yeah.
And I just, seriously, I mean, I was, like I say, I don't know, 15, 16, something like that. And I was just like, tears coming down my eyes. Standing there thinking he's going to die in front of me because I'm my favourite all-time player. He was, he had everything. And he was Arsenal through and through. And it's just his smile, everything about him. He's just an incredible guy.
No, definitely.
That's a great choice. Great choice. And it's a different one, which is nice to hear as well.
I'm guessing, like I say, I've obviously missed everybody else's, but if Jason didn't pick at least 2 Ramsey goals for his choice, I'll be disappointed with him.
He chose that. I can't disagree with one that he chose. You can listen back anyway because we'll move through. But yeah, Jason chose the Galatasaray one. But it's an amazing goal, very underrated goal.
Yeah, fair enough. I do agree.
Can't knock that choice.
Nah,
great goal.
Right, we're going to go back through, and it's your go again now, Si, and it's the game that you would take with you, which you could watch whenever you like, and tell us all which one you chose and reason why.
Another one that was really interesting to think about, because there's a few that sprung to mind. A few from more recent history, actually, after my last pick. I was thinking maybe against the cup final against Hull, where you just went through every emotion, where the world was falling apart, being 2-0 down, and gradually coming back to win it. Again, Ramsey, Jason will be pleased with that. Ramsey with the winning goal. That was up there just because of the emotion. I particularly liked the game against Barcelona, which I think was a quarter-final, the 2-2 draw, again, coming back into that. Just the quality of the football there was just an incredible game. But I actually went for nostalgia again with this one, and it was my first ever North London derby that I attended, which would have been 96, and Arsenal won 3-1 at Highbury. And it was also that moment, again, funnily enough, another Tony Adams goal in there. The second goal for us was a Tony Adams goal, so not often you pick two moments in history where Tony Adams was the scorer. But it was, I think that was probably one of the moments where I sat there live for the first time in that atmosphere and appreciated what it meant. But I also appreciated the wonder of Dennis Bergkamp on that day. He scored the third goal. If I remember rightly, it was an Ian Wright cross right towards the end of the game, and the control that he had to take that ball down, just turn his body ever so slightly and knock it in. I think just being there and seeing that, I was just in awe of Bergkamp then, and he became probably my all-time favourite Arsenal player, and that was a big contributing factor to it, I think. I loved the North London derby and being there for the first time. I was only young, but it was fantastic. And I look back and I was just reliving the goals earlier today. And I just had a look at who was in the Tottenham team as well, because I didn't remember at the time who was there. But there were 16 English players. Players started that game in both games, which is it surprised me at the time. I wouldn't have thought about it then, but it was there's certainly some good names on the show. Sheringham and Campbell were the noticeable ones there on their side, but our team was just full of.
But Campbell was.
Our team was just absolutely just full of quality there. Vieira at the beginning of his Arsenal career as well just started to dominate in the game as well. Just a great game. I'd happily watch that again.
Fantastic, really good choice, excellent. And now, on to you, Chappers. What one have you chosen?
Well, I was having an iron about this one, actually. Because I suppose my first real sort of formative experience as a Gooner was the 1989 Anfield, But actually, I thought, well, I expect a few people have probably picked that one already. And actually, the one I chose it's one that was in recent memory. It's actually like I'm better to send out a little bit of a trigger warning here. It is part of the Unai Emery era, but I'm sorry, Jason. I'm sorry, but actually the reason I picked this game it was the 4-2 North London derby at the Emirates, and the reason that I picked it is just because, as far as I teach drama. That's my day job. But as far as drama goes, you really couldn't. It had it all. Mike Dean for a start. If you want performative, you've got Mike Dean, right?
Well, it was. I mean, you say this game was actually chosen a week or two. I think it's Stan who's watching.
Oh,
welcome, Stan. Yeah, he chose this game as well because
did he?
it meant
Okay.
a lot to him particularly. But yeah, it's an incredible game. But
Yeah.
Sorry, Carrie. I did.
No, that's okay. That's all right. I mean, we went up early with a penalty with a really stupid handball. I think it was Vertonghen. It must have been Vertonghen, actually. Yeah. And I mean, Dyer, Cubed Dyer with his little shush gesture, and it's just like you really don't want to be doing that, mate. It's 1-1. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Just put your silly Cubed away, and so and then of course Kane puts them ahead, and you think, oh God, not this again. But eventually we win through, and for me, I think it just said it all with Torreira's celebration on the fourth goal. How much it meant to him, how much it meant to me as well. And I remember I was upstairs watching it and I screamed, and my son ran up, and he's like 8 now. He ran up as well and started screaming and jumping about, and it was just like I say, it was drama, and it really, really had it all. So yeah, that's why I chose that one.
Great choice. Absolutely. And what about you, Jace?
Oh, there's a couple in that. There's obviously Anfield '89. For the result and for the drama, not so much for the game itself. The game itself was putrid. But the first half was horrible. But I remember being in the pub, and it was electric. It was crackling. That's there. There's the Battle of Old Trafford in 1990, where you've gone up there, you win 1-0. Brian McClare kicks off. It's all horrible. Deducted points also. There's so much. But the metal on show from the boys, the metal on show to come out of that and for the whole season was phenomenal. But I kind of went for the back end of Arsene's career and the Chelsea Cup final.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Chelsea was so good that season. I hate to say it, but they were magnificent. There's a team that nearly went invincible. But we dominated them, and from obviously Rambo's winning because I'm a fanboy, but Giroud coming on and making a difference. Sanchez, Rob Holding, magnificent,
incredible, yeah.
But the man of the match for me was Per Mertesacker.
Yeah.
First
game that season.
Yeah, first full game.
Yeah, amazing game for him. That should be called the Per Mertesacker final.
Yeah,
I think
that's what it should be called.
It should.
Yeah, I think it is for most people, and I just remember how happy I felt for them all. You saw them; they were, whatever your thoughts on them, but they deserved it that day, and they were magnificent, and they tore apart the best team in the land. And we're holding, taking the Mickey Acosta. It was
that the game where Ramsey said, "This is my ground" as well?
No. That was the Spurs away.
Of course, that was. Of course, yeah, of course it was.
Yeah, but just the
whole. There was a thorn in everyone's side, wasn't he? He
was.
But it was. That was poetry.
And the thing was, we played them off the park. If it had been 5-0, nobody would have been surprised. Nobody would be surprised. We were that good that day, and as you know, you look at this kid in holding, being magnificent. Nacho Monreal, just Mr. Reliable. And Mertesacker, you know, chest out, you know, come on. It was just magic, boys. Just magic. That's my favourite.
No, I don't blame you. That's why you've got to watch that game and think that, you know, see Rob Holding and not have such, you know, some fans need to have not such bad memories and just look at that and say, you can see there's a really good cultured defender there. Yeah. But he's just had some terrible times with injuries, and he needs a good run in the team to get his match fitness back and his confidence back. You can see in that game alone what a good quality defender we could have there if we give him a bit of time and not be so hasty like we are nowadays as, you know, as fans, and you write a player off after one bad game or something. But, you know, it's just common sense that you need a run of 5-6 games to get anywhere near, you know, match fit. So I hope we keep hold of the guy, because, you know, I think he could be a good defender for us, especially if we go on to lose, you know, Louise or whatever. So yeah, that's a great choice, Jace. And what about you, Gav? What have you chosen for your match?
Just purely for the sort of like the whole sort of weekend of it, I'm going to go for the semi-final Old Trafford versus Tottenham in 2001, which probably was one of the most one-sided 2-1 victories you're ever going to see in your life. How Perez didn't score at least 3 or 4 that game is beyond me. But it was just for that. If I watch them again, it would be that, you know, not only for the fact that, you know, we beat Tottenham again in another semi-final. It was just for the memories that I'd have for the whole weekend. We went up the night, like the day before, and we stayed at my mate's sister's house, who was up at Sheffield at university. So we went out with all the university lot on the Saturday night. Got trolleyed.
Pint, I hope.
I've no idea. I know we, like I say, there was like 4 of us went up there, and we went out with her and loads of her mates, and we nearly got into trouble with one of the Sheffield firms as well on that night. And then we turned up at Old Trafford just to watch Tottenham fans getting run round Old Trafford, being extremely hungover because it was like a 12 o'clock kickoff. So by the time we got there, it was about 10 to 12, and, you know, we're still all absolutely hanging from the night before, with literally no sleep and a night of drunken debauchery. And then we go in the ground and absolutely turn them over. Sol Campbell's last game for them, he went off injured. The last time he got back on a football pitch was for us. And you know, it was just one of those weekends. And then afterwards, you know, I think it took us about 8 hours to drive home, and, you know, the drive home, obviously going through cars of Tottenham supporters and Tottenham buses, and it was just one of those weekends. It really had everything that you would want and more, going away to watch football.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've even cut out some of the good bits in that story.
Yeah. You don't need to. I mean, just seriously, on this channel,
the best bits more like.
It's probably I mean, in your case, though, Gav. Yeah, probably. Sensible.
Yeah, no. I mean, but like I say, I mean, it was one of those games. It was 2-1. I mean, I believe they scored first. I think, I can't remember, but we absolutely dominated them. I mean, Perez had about 2 or 3 3-on-1s with their keeper Sullivan, who saved most of them. But it was just so one-sided. It really was one. You know, if on another day that would have been 5 or 6-1. Yeah, it really would have done. Do you know what I mean? But it was just never in doubt from the whole day, that game. And it's just nice watching us absolutely demolish Tottenham, and that was a demolishing. Even though it's 2-1, it was a demolishing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great choice. And just quickly popping back to your choice as well, Jace, when you talked about the Battle of Old Trafford and in that sort of game, what you would give now to have a whole team full of players that literally fight for each other, you know.
The problem is the game's changed. The game's changed, and, you know, you don't get that anymore, you know. But I mean, what I loved about that was, you know, I was listening to the Gooners pod and they had Mickey Thomas on it a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And just that attitude, okay? And it's like we go back to the 4-2 with Tottenham and the Unai. And, you know, you've got them, you've got Guendouzi and Rambo, you know, having a go at them. And, you know, they're not backing down. But, you know, nowadays there's so many, you know, you look at the Battle of Old Trafford as a travesty to get dot points. A travesty, you know? But you can't get away with that nonsense anymore. You know,
no, but you can still have that air and that aura about you that you ain't going to get pushed around, though. And you know, it's just I don't know. It's the character, isn't it? It's character. And you know what? I'm sorry to, but that's almost why I would be really happy to be patient and just wait for this group of academy players to just gel together in a team and just play a lot of the youngsters out, especially in this climate now. We're going to have no money.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we actually give them a chance, because they've all been together since they were 10, you know, these kids we've got now coming through the academy, a lot of them. And it's that sort of atmosphere that you could have, where they all grow together and they will all fight for each other.
They've got each other's back, haven't they, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's that kind of team mentality that you can breed.
I see that in our team at the moment. I've seen that in the last few seasons. But I've also seen, you know, and it all turned on that 50th game when Mike Riley allowed the Neville boys to kick the shit out of us and kicks off the park. And you've seen the number of broken legs we've had. You know, you've seen the number of games where, you know, we make a certain challenge, it's a booking, and then the opposition make it 2 minutes later, and it's play on.
Honestly,
you can only play to the way you're allowed to play at times, and I think at times we make too much of it. It'd be great to see these youngsters come through. You know, you look at Willock, you look at Saka, you look at Nelson. There's talent everywhere. It'd be magic to do that, okay, and not have to spend money. But I think sometimes we do ourselves down. You look at that Tottenham game, okay, none of those boys backed off. Not one of them backed off.
That's why I put a lot of that down to the actual players themselves and their attitude on the day. And like I said, I've said this in the last couple of pods, and I don't like being so bad and down on Unai Emery, but I see that we won that game despite him, rather than because of him. You know, I think a lot of that was down to the character of the players. I've watched it back a couple of times actually, and I can't get away from that fact. But anyway, it doesn't matter because it was a great game and we won the match. But yeah, the character shown on that day was fantastic. Fantastic. Absolutely. And it moves us on to the next category, which is the game that you'd be quite happy to wipe from history. And it's back to you, Si. So which one have you gone for? Because there's quite a few in the history.
Yeah, mine's going to be an obvious choice, and I'm sure it's probably come up before, but it's got to be the Champions League final. So much. I would love to have seen what had happened to the club had we won that. The players that would have stayed, the players that would have come in, where Wenger would have built the team up after that. I didn't want to pick that because it's the obvious choice, but it still causes me heartache and pain now. The other one that sort of follows closely on that, I guess, is that semi-final loss against United, the Ryan Giggs goal. Again, an obvious one, but I wouldn't put that on the one I could wipe from history, because I have to sit back and appreciate just the quality of that goal, and it hurts and it was dreadful. And the chest air, well, that was even worse. But it was one of those games where you just thought Bergkamp penalty, beyond doubt, that wasn't going to happen, and it did. So it really hurt. But to wipe it from history and not see it again, I don't know. So I've gone for the Champions League final. And I think that gains more pain because it's been so long since we've been anywhere near getting back there. We're not even in the same tournament now. And, I hope that things are going to improve. I hope that we get back into the Champions League regularly, but I also don't want us to be a club that gets through the group stage and then goes out again. I want us to have a run in that competition. I want us to get back into semi-finals and finals. So it hurts that we're not doing that. So for me, that's the one that I'd wipe out.
Yeah, I can totally understand that, and I'm different in that respect because I was so proud of the lads that night. It was horrendous, the result, but I wouldn't want to get rid of it because it gave me an incredible moment as well when Sol Campbell scored that goal.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just a moment of pure ecstasy. And it was horrendous at the end with the result and everything, but the overall time, it's still great that we got there, and I was really proud of the effort we put in and everything. But I totally understand your side as well, and it could quite easily be the other way for me.
And I should say I wasn't disappointed with the performance or any of the players. I think they all gave everything. We were, decisions went against us that night, and had it been 11 v 11, maybe something different would have happened. I couldn't fault any of the players or anything in that game, but that feeling at the end was just.
I totally get it. Yeah, I get it completely. But it was just it was. Yeah, it's a disappointment that sort of leads on from that. But with it leaving Highbury under all those promises of being the team that's going to challenge and everything, and feeling like we're utterly lied to, and we left Highbury for no reason. But there you go. It's just what it led to. Like you say, it's Anyway, Chappers, what's your choice? Muted. You muted, Chappers.
There we go.
You're not
We're back in the game. We're back in the game. Fucking amateurs, look. Right. So
the fact that you're turning it off is incredible. Actually, it's very professional. So I won't worry about that. Just that one mistake.
All right. Oh, good. Yeah. So I mean, it could have been any number of games, really. I chose this game just because it is a. It's like a vintage example, a sort of standard example of Arsenal have everything and then all of a sudden just fucking collapse. So I'm chosen the 2010. No, it's not this time. Although it could have easily
been any game.
It could have. Well, exactly. I mean, I was thinking about the Watford game as well quite recently. But I thought, no, not another one.
Newcastle, the 4-4 at Newcastle win.
Which I also had written down. As
the 8-2 at Old Trafford.
Well, yes, but I mean, I specifically remember this game. And I remember not feeling right about it. So I've not said what it is, have I? 2010, Wigan 3, Arsenal 2. And it was at that point, at that point, quite a few of our kind of stronger characters had left. And I felt that maybe there wasn't quite so much like harmony within the dressing room. We talked about the players sort of fighting for each other and and having character and sticking up for each other. And I think in that interview that Cess did quite recently, he said something very similar, that when the big characters kind of left, we lost a big heart of that thing that it meant to be united and stand together for it. But I just kind of remember, I think it was when the second goal went in, Nasri goes and he picks the ball up out the net. And he gives this look to Silvestre, I think it was. He gives this look to Silvestre that basically says, "Yeah, we've won this," and I just and at that point, I mean, we weren't particularly brilliant that day. Wigan were pretty stubborn, and in the end, they scored like 3 in the last 80 minutes. That was one of the famous Flappy Hansky incidents. Flappy Hansky let one in on the and I think Moses got one as well. And it was just it was just
horrendous.
That basically put paid to our title hopes. I mean, they were pretty slim at that point anyway, but that was like, it was off the back of a defeat from Spurs as well. And it's just one of those things. I mean, I'm a realist, man. You know, a lot of my friends, Arsenal friends, are quite sensitive, and you know, I'll call it if it's rubbish. I'll call it out and I say, no, man, that's rubbish. You know, and that day was rubbish.
It was, yeah. I totally remember. It was awful, and it was quite recently. I was listening to some old podcasts, and I came across the podcast after that, the Arsecast after that match.
Yeah, and
relived it all via that, and it was sort of obviously very fresh and raw when you're listening to it again, and it brought everything back, and it was horrendous. That was
it's just like
complete capitulation for no reason whatsoever. You know, at the time, it's just that utterly crap attitude on the day, wasn't it? Like
that abject, yeah. It was just the look. I remember the look, and I would just remember thinking, "Don't be so sure, mate. Don't be so sure."
As well, weren't we? We were right in the title race.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that basically put paid to our chances. That was, we had a pretty, pretty shitty run after that. It was, there's been draws so and defeats. And a 4-0 win, that, you know, this is typical Arsenal. Again, 4-0 win on the last day of the season when it didn't count.
I know. Yeah, well, that's if I can say that, it's a good choice for a game to get rid of.
It's just a classic example of the genre, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, what's yours? Dare I ask?
Well, there's 3. Zaragoza final.
Oh yeah.
It'd have been a horrible season, you know. I mean, we'd said goodbye to George, and as much as you know, I don't want to go over ground, but fucking Naeem, you know, I still feel sick at that. The quarterfinal against Chelsea, because I thought that team,
Wayne Bridge.
Yeah.
Do you know what? That is much more painful for me in lots of ways, in retrospect, than losing the final. That one.
We should have won that year. We should have won it that year. Easy won it. It was the best team in Europe.
I'm not being funny. It's the best team I'd ever seen. It's the best footballing team I'd ever seen. And for us,
they deserve to win it. They deserve to win it.
You know, I still feel sick at that game. Okay, and you know, but for me, it is the Champions League final. It's the only time after a game I was in the pub down the road, and a couple of United fans were taking the piss, and I went for one of them. You know, I'd lost it. I'd lost the plot that night. And you know, it was the injustice of it all. Because I was thinking about the 50th game as well against United, where we get cheated off the park by Mike Riley. You know, and anybody can go back and watch that game, and it's there. It's on video. You know, even my United mates, you know, it's a mistake. They all say it. That 50th game, we got cheated. But that Champions League final, you know, it was... I know where Boué dived for the free kick. Fine. Okay, fine. But the offside, it wasn't even contentious. Do you know what I mean? And as you said earlier on, Si, they played so well. You know, I was not ashamed to be an Arsenal fan that night. I just felt, again, it's a bit like the Van Persie sending off.
Mate, that's the worst. That's worst injustice in Arsenal history, I think. Incredible, that is. Incredible.
And those are the ones that hurt me. I mean, for shooting ourselves in the foot, it's the Chelsea game. But I felt we deserved that Champions League final. And I thought we played well with 10 men. Those guys left their guts out on the park. And you couldn't ask for more of them. Just a bit gutted. I felt Reyes should have started, but how can you leave, Bobby out? You know, Dennis didn't get a game, and unfortunately, as much as I love Thierry Henry, he had his chances and he didn't take them.
He was dead on his feet at that.
At the end, he was stuffed, didn't he?
He's admitted he was just dead on his feet, didn't he? He could barely move his legs at that point.
And it's just that thing of being an Arsenal fan. For a guy I love so much, you just wanted him to get. If it's the only cup final goal you ever get, mate, this is the time to get it, because it would have broken them. And there's enough there, but oh god, I still have nightmares. I I had to be pulled off a guy in the pub. It was bad. You know, my behaviour was not good, lads.
Oh, Stan the man said, sounds like some Welsh justice was handed out that night.
No. To be fair, I got stopped before I could do anything. But you know, they were goading, you know, and it's like, I don't mind a bit of banter.
No.
You know, no, they overstepped the mark. It was horrible. I still have nightmares about that.
Yeah. Well, sorry to bring it back up again.
Thanks, mate.
But I really enjoyed listening to it. Thanks, mate. Gav, what was your choice?
There's so many, isn't there?
Yeah.
I guess, like I say, I mean, I'll go back to the 91 semi-final against Tottenham at Wembley. Really, I mean, I thought that we was going to do the double that year. We was by far superior to everybody else we played. We lost once in the league to Chelsea when Tony Adams was in jail, and then I think Steve Bold got injured. So we you know, they only let in 18 goals all season, and 2 of them were away to Chelsea in the league. So there was that one. The only other 2 games that we lost that season, we lost 6-2 at home in the League Cup to Man United, and Lee Sharp absolutely tore us apart. He scored a hat-trick and was probably the best player I've seen against us in a one-off performance.
He just broken through then, didn't he? He was very young then.
Yeah, he was very young, yeah.
Yeah, he looked like a world beater, didn't he, at that point?
Yeah, no, he looked amazing, but obviously I believe the drinks and substances quite possibly got to him at a young age, especially at that time in Manchester. Do you know what I mean? You know, there was their revival of their rave scene and all that malarkey was coming up just the same as it was in London.
I was up there most
and anywhere else.
Yeah,
Manchester, Madrid. So I think that might have got to him, but like I say, I mean, and oddly, out of the 3 games we lost that season, I was at 2 of them. And my brother was at the other one. But yeah, no, if I had to get rid of one game that never happened, it was that semi-final at Wembley versus Tottenham.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of mistakes, a couple of saves that Seaman would have normally have saved as well for 2 of their goals, and Lineker just caught one on the end, didn't he? But like I say, I thought that year was going to be the year we was going to do the double, which was huge back then. I mean, like I say, back then, you know, that was still the time that because of Liverpool fans murdering Juventus fans at Heysel, we were still banned from Europe.
Yeah.
So to win the cup, either cup, was a huge thing, and to win the league as well was a huge thing. And the fact that we was, you know, we were so close to a double, we were so close to being invincible. But yeah, no, that game for me.
Well, we only lost that Chelsea game because Adams was in prison as well.
Yeah, Adams was in prison, and I think Bold got injured in the first half, and I think David Hillier was centre back. It was because I mean there was only 2 subs back then as well.
Yeah.
So there was only 2 subs on the bench, so it was, you know, and even then like I say, my brother always says to me we was unlucky to lose.
We were definitely, and that team is so underrated. So underrated. We were the top scorers in the league. We let in 18 goals, like you said. But we weren't boring. We were far from it. And to nearly go, you know,
Google Anders Limpar to see how boring we was that season. I mean, his goal versus Liverpool.
Incredible. I know. And, you know, I still vividly remember I was at, I think, what was it called? It was a pre-season tournament. Anders Limpar made his first start. It was a friendly game. Mizuno tournament or something? Makita. And he unleashed a shot on his debut with his left foot, just right, really acute angle, and it arrowed into the far right top corner. It was incredible. What a finish! Was that good?
Yeah, no, I think I was there because they done two of the years of Makita were at Wembley.
Yeah, it was at Wembley.
And one year it was at Highbury. We played the Makita tournament. Was at Highbury one year as well. That might have been the year after. There was. One year we played Tottenham. One in the Makita, there was one other English club in there, and one year it was Liverpool, 1 year it was Tottenham, and 1 year it was West Ham. I think it might have been Liverpool.
It was a Liverpool against Liverpool, wasn't it? That he
So
scored.
that must have, yeah.
It was Limpar's first start.
That must have been. That was if that was at Wembley, then that was that must have been at Wembley then.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
I know. I went all three of them, but the dates and I know the first two was at Wembley and one was at Highbury. The West Ham one was at Highbury.
Yeah, because I was.
Quality.
It was so exciting signing him because it wasn't really heard of then. It was like got an exotic player here, Swedish. But he was so skillful and lightning, and I loved him. Absolutely loved him.
He still loves the Arsenal as well. He still absolutely loves Arsenal.
And
he really does.
When he left, I found out about him leaving when I walked past the newsagents and saw it at the back page, and he was like standing there with an Everton kit on, and I just about held back the tears. I'm like, what? Huh? He's like, but there's no internet then, obviously. I didn't know anything about it. And I just saw Anders Limpar gone, one of my favourite players at the time, so exciting player.
There were two players. I cried when they left, okay? And the tear went down my eyes. And Limpar's one and Rocastle's the other one.
Yeah, me too. Exactly, me too, James. Me too.
I've got to be honest here, I couldn't understand either of them. And as much as I love George, at those times, I hated his guts. And this is somebody who I held up there. George was everything at the time, wasn't he? He was the greatest.
I was so proud of him as a manager. Yeah, I loved him. I loved the George. But I was exactly the same as you, and I could not get my head around it. It's weird when you look back. No internet, no sort of, no mobile phones, nothing. I just found out. I mean, those days, I looked at CFAX, and I rang, whenever I went into one of my mates' house, I used to use his phone and ring the club call because it was so expensive, I couldn't do it at home.
I used to find out your news.
Weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Looking back. But I found out about
0898, wasn't it? Was it 0898?
When it had happened.
Was it 0898 2020?
Say that again, you broke up.
0898 2020, I think.
Keep you out hanging on for about 20 minutes to tell you that there's no news, basically, at the end of the day.
Yeah,
you were linked to someone, mad.
Don't. Sorry, Barclays Bank 1989, I do apologise.
Yeah. Exactly the same. I got a Saturday job in a chemist delivering a load of medication to the elderly people and cleaning up the back office and that. And I used to use their phone all the time. I mean, I must have rung up a couple of grand, I reckon. But I didn't stay there long, thankfully. But yeah, it's that was such a, like you say, a really underrated team. I think that 91.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, we're going to have to move on. Let's go on to the song that best summarises the Wenger era for you. And it's back to you, Si. And which one have you chosen?
You've all got to be gentle with me. I found the songs pretty difficult, actually. So I don't want any Mickey taking. The Wenger era...
well, my choice was
I really focused
myself by the Divinals. So yeah, you can't be more embarrassing than that, mate.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, this isn't controversial at all, so I'm fine. I obviously, with the Wenger era, went for everything that was good about it, rather than any of the feelings some Arsenal fans had towards the end. Still, the change that he brought at the club, the type of football that we were playing every single week is just, I hold the guy in awe still. So I actually going for a song, I was thinking of a song that had lyrics that meant, or that resonated with me about the way we played football and all the good things about our club and tradition and the way we want to play football. And then it popped into my head the famous song that we were singing about Freddie Ljungberg, and I've gone for "You're Just Too Good to Be True," which was Four Seasons.
Well, yeah,
because the lyrics of that song were just summarises just those words that echo the way that we were playing football for so many years. But it ended up as an Arsenal anthem as well for Freddie. So I thought that was just a pretty obvious choice. I don't know if anyone's come up with that before, but I thought that was that's quite a nice one.
It is. It's a fantastic choice. Yeah, I chose to do the same thing as well. Like look at it as a whole, because when I was younger, I never dreamt that I'd see Arsenal play the football that I was standing there watching, under Arsene Wenger. And I just had to pinch myself sometimes because it was so incredible. So I chose to not split the Wenger era down the middle or into thirds or whatever. Like, some people have got every right to do, but I chose to choose the whole era just because I never thought that I'd see Arsenal play football like that. Like I say, I prefer to look back on it like that rather than dwell on the worst parts rather than everything that was amazing about what he brought to the club. What about you, Chappers?
Well, I also had difficulty just whoa, what can you do? How can you sum up that entire epoch of Arsenal history? In my opinion, the greatest epoch in Arsenal history. And so obviously, yes, like when you talk about things towards the end as well, you have to kind of consider that too. And I really, really struggled for a long, long time. And then I just thought, it just sort of popped into my head, really. It was the lyrics, regrets. I've had a few. That was the kind of first thing that kind of came to head. Regrets. I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. So yeah, I chose Frank Sinatra's My Way because Wenger really was. He was one of the last sort of real true managers.
Yeah.
When it comes to the structure of the modern club, it was always kind of like the manager ran everything, ran the show, and now it's changed an awful lot, although I do quite like to listen to Arteta because he still refers to himself as a manager rather than a head coach. But yeah, I just think that he did everything, his way and ran the show. And actually when things weren't quite, shall we say, rosy and perhaps, he was getting a bit constricted and a bit kind of cut off from that whole sort of total control. He
wasn't supposed to run the whole show. You know that, don't you?
Well,
the only reason he started running the whole show was when David Dean got sacked. The reason they sacked George Graham, and the reason they exposed George Graham for doing what every other manager was doing was because David Dean and Fisman, etc. They wanted a club that was going forwards, and they wanted a manager who was just going to deal with the management of players. When David Dean left, it left a chasm that Wenger stepped into, which completely diluted what he's done. But if David Dean had never played his cards the way he played with and fell out with Danny Fisman, then Wenger wouldn't have been in that position of being the modern manager. And like I say, that's why they wanted rid of George Graham. So it was more through fault than design. That Wenger actually ended up in that position in the first instance.
Talk about sliding doors moment.
But I mean,
basically,
but he did with it what he could, didn't he? And he sure achieved an awful lot. I mean, I for one would, and obviously, like I say, when Gazidis and everybody kind of tightened the net a little bit, then he had to kind of, well, this isn't for me anymore. But I really am kind of looking forward to that book. Do you know what I mean? It's definitely. Anyone else looking forward to that?
I was just thinking about that and wondering how honest that was going to be, and quite what it will say, because I always got the impression that like you're absolutely right. When David Dean left the club, there was this massive hole. And that's where Wenger started to have to spread himself around doing other things and commenting on things that maybe he wasn't commenting on before. But the people around him just didn't step up either. Gazidis was just mentioned, he just didn't seem qualified to do the job. And I wonder how honest Wenger will be about the people that he worked with.
With hindsight, it's probably a very good thing that Gazidis didn't step up much further than he did, because the geezer was an absolute out and out clown.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, we used to rib him about what do you do? There was a song, Ivan Gazidis, what do you do? And he took that very, very personally, and still to this day, I wonder what the fuck he did.
I really hope that it's got some good revelations in the book. I don't know. I can't get it out of my head.
Yeah, the problem is
integrity.
Sorry, say that again.
His integrity is going to be the issue, isn't it? You know, he's not going to sell people down the river. He'll be honest.
I can't see it.
I would love. I ordered it straight away. Okay, you know, and I ordered one of the autograph versions, and the one thing you wish. I wish they went no time.
Yeah,
but
I know.
I wish he was honest about it, because there's look, whichever way you look at it, there's his version, there's other people's versions of events, and somewhere in the middle there's the truth. Do you know what I mean? It's not Saint Arsene. As much as I love him, it's not Saint Arsene. And choosing cutlery, why is he doing that? That's the bit that frustrated me. But
yeah.
I think it's two great choices.
Yeah, really good, really good. What about yours, Jace?
There's kind of three songs that come to mind. Okay, Foo Fighters. I love the Foo Fighters. It's like the best of you. You know what I mean? I find the Foo Fighters exciting, and I found Arsene's football exciting. There's Crazy in Love by Beyonce. I don't know why, but it just caught an era, and it's exciting again. But the one that kind of got me was That's Entertainment by The Jam. And you listen to the lyrics, and they're so cerebral, they're so clever, they're so emotive. And, when you watch Tony Adams playing football, being let loose to play football, when you watch Steve Bold, like we were talking about the Everton goal, putting that ball through, and you saw Vieira, you saw Nelka come through, you saw Thierry, you saw all these fabulous players, and it's The Jam, That's Entertainment, because I never thought, I didn't realise football could be like that. Even watching Brazil, it's still the best football I've ever seen.
Do you remember that headline at some point? It either said Arsenal would beat Brazil, or Arsenal are better than Brazil, or something. It was on the back of the papers one day when in our height. I just remember that. I got a distinct memory of. Well, I say distinct memory. I can't remember which one it was, but it was worse to that effect anyway. But it was just amazing to see. That breathtaking. And I've said this before, and I do apologise. People have been listening to the podcast for a while, but we at that time could treat an opposition corner as a goal-scoring opportunity for us, because we were within 7 seconds, we were down the other end of the pitch and the ball was in the back of the opposition's net. It was just frightening. It was just, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. At that point,
you look at that time. Okay, United was so good, and Ferguson was such a domineering character, and nobody went to Old Trafford to try to win. Nobody, and Arsene took him up, and he went to win. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And he stood there, and he had all the shit thrown at him. When he said, we can go through a season unbeaten, they all laughed and they all mocked him. And the next season he goes and does it. You just saw these, when you look at that last Invincible season, and you look at Dixon still in the team, and you know what I mean? I just thought it was magic. I was so excited watching football. I'm a rugby boy. I only like football because of the Arsenal, because of a cup final in '78. That's the only reason I like football. I really don't give a monkeys otherwise. Do you know what I mean? I watch a Bundesliga at the end of the day, and I'm bored of it by half time. I'm an Arsenal fan.
I only watch Arsenal. I only watch Arsenal matches. I'm not interested in anything else.
I only watch Arsenal.
Yeah,
I don't watch anything else.
And the thing is, okay, I love George Graham so much. When he went, I felt bitter, And then to have Arsene come in, and then to see some of the football he played. And I know we've had a rough ride, and it was a roller coaster ride. But God, it's so, you look back and you're George Graham, George knew, George knows. Do you know what I mean?
He laid the foundations for Wenger to build on. That's for sure.
They all go hand in hand, don't they? They all
do.
hand in hand. And
it's from Unai Emery.
Yeah, but it's that side of it, you know. You can't diminish George's achievements. You can't.
No.
You know,
And the good thing is, you know, since the '89 documentary came out a couple of years ago, I think he's getting a lot more of the credit that he actually deserves now. Finally, people who have forgotten, I say they've forgotten. I never really held it against George about going to Spurs at the end of the day. I didn't like it at all, but it didn't mean I hated the guy. And finally, now I think after all this time, George Graham is finally getting the respect that he deserves as the manager, because of this documentary has really brought it back round again into people's minds. That you know, the younger generation fans are respecting him, and I really like that actually, because he deserves it at the end of the day. And the fact that when he was the Tottenham manager, whilst he was Tottenham manager, he had the Arsenal crest tiled on the bottom of his swimming pool still, because he's a gooner, and you got to love him for that.
Can't not love him, you know. He's a great man.
He is, yeah. I'm going to move on to you, Gav. What is your you would choose to summarise your thoughts on Wenger era?
Right, yeah, no, it's been a hard one. This, I've actually, when you sent me the questions last week, I've been thinking and asking mates, and I've been researching songs and
I love
all sorts.
You guys have put all into
this.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll be honest with you. The rest of it was pretty easy. It's just this one. It's so hard to find a song of someone that was so great and ended up so poor, and the slide down from it, from good to bad, or from so I mean, at first I was thinking of Don't You Want Me Baby, played in reverse. So it ends up with the woman who's made something brilliant of her life, and she ends up a poor waitress. But like I say, not even through the words of the song, because the words of the song doesn't really make complete sense. But the song that I'm going to put towards it is "Love Will Tear Us Apart," because
great one.
Basically the love of Arsene Wenger and the love of what he did actually tore apart the fan base completely down the middle. To those who felt he still had something to give, and for those who knew he didn't. So Love Will Tear Us Apart by Joy Division.
Great choice. That's a really good one. And all I'll say, I mean, I agree totally that there's so many, poor decisions that would not strengthen in the defence, and so on, blah blah blah. But how many managers across the world and throughout history would give their right arm that during their worst possible time they still win 3 FA Cups? It's pretty amazing, really, isn't it? So when you think of it that way.
I appreciate that, and obviously, the name of my blog is "She Wore the Other Ribbon." I mean, I love the FA. I love the FA Cup. I've loved it since I was as a child. We'd play Wembley over the park every Saturday. Do you know what I mean?
Just to butt in, just quickly, yeah. Paul Merson said, and this will make a lot of the younger sort of generation absolutely laugh, but he said at the time when we were kids, when we were young, the FA Cup was much bigger than the Champions League is now. The Champions League final is now. It is how many millions, billions of people across the world watched it, and it was like so exciting. And it was because it was the only game that was shown live. Yeah,
and like I say, you would have on BBC, you would have the whole day build up, and all the papers would
the
have
local butcher making a special sausage named after one of the players.
Yeah, it was it was all of that. It's and obviously then you've got the point where it was huge, and I mean you've also got the fact that once again there was no European competitions for a few years. The FA Cup was even more elevated. I mean nowadays the FA Cup for the top clubs that are competing in Europe, and Wenger was guilty of this a lot of times as well. He would rest players for the FA Cup. I mean, I remember we went up to Old Trafford. I think it was 2003 or 2004, and we got Man United away. We got Man United away in the FA Cup in about the third or fourth round, and we've got up there, and it was something like Perez and Henry started on the bench, and Man United played a full team, and we still beat them 2-0. But Wenger was one of those that was sort of guilty, as much as everybody else, of playing a weakened team in the FA Cup. And now we're at a situation with the FA Cup, because the prize money is so poor, and because the money of getting into Europe is so high, and even because the money of getting promoted is so high, or the money from getting relegated from the Premiership is so much of a difference, you get literally every team doesn't play a full strength team in the FA Cup until you get to sort of like the quarterfinal, semi-final stage.
I know,
and like I say, I mean, Arsene Wenger, for his 7 FA Cup wins, he was as guilty of starting off that trend as anybody else. Because, I mean, are you going to play a full team, at home to bloody Sheffield United on a Saturday if you're away to Juventus on the Wednesday? You're not going to do it, purely for the fact it's down to the money. And that's why the FA Cup has lost a bit of its prestige, is because of the fact that there's not enough money in it. But from a fan's point of view, from a match-going fan's point of view, getting a big allocation away in the FA Cup is amazing. Getting to the final of the FA Cup is amazing. Do you know what I mean? It's what supporters want. Supporters want, you want to go out for a day, and all of your mates can get a ticket, and you all can go, and it's somewhere nice for a beer up for the weekend. So the FA, do you know what I mean? That's.
I was going to say, if you're a mid-table team, I just don't get the fact that if you could genuinely sort of hardly got any chance, realistically, of winning the league or getting to, if you're Newcastle, if you're Everton, if you're West Ham, Leicester, whatever, I don't understand why those managers just don't go all out for winning the FA Cup, especially now you get the Europa League's place as well, but that just shouldn't matter. For the glory, you should. Why they don't go after the FA Cup? It really mystifies me if you've got really. I can understand playing a slightly weaker team if you're in the Champions League, but even though I'm still not happy about that, but if you are West Ham or whatever, or Newcastle, why wouldn't you go after winning the FA Cup? I don't get it.
That's the thing. I mean, that's the way the Premiership is at the moment. If you look, there's probably still, if you look at 6th or 7th is going to get into Europe next year, you could probably go down to about 14th who could still put a run together and get up to that position.
Oh, yeah, but
and then when you look from 14th from below, they could still put a run together, which can end up getting relegated. And it's purely down. The reason why people, clubs don't play full strength team in the FA Cup is just all down to the money. It's completely down to the money.
You don't look at that when you're at the end of your career. You're not going to say, "Oh yeah, look at that."
We stayed in the Premier League for 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just mad, isn't it? You just want,
exactly.
You want glory.
And exactly, and like I say, I mean,
glory's
exactly.
the word.
And I mean, you can Wenger decides all the, he deserves all the plaudits in the world for the fact that he's the highest winning manager of the FA Cup with, is it 7, I believe? Someone nod their heads.
Yeah.
Yep, 7, right? But you still got to remember, he went 9 years without a trophy, and that was 9 years where he was resting players for FA Cup games. So there you go. Love will tear us apart again.
Good choice. So we're going to have to sort of start moving through them because I've got about 10 more minutes before I've got to go. So let's just move through these last couple of categories. The Emery era, which I like to try my best to pretend never happened, but it did, unfortunately. So, Si, which one have you chosen for that?
I've chosen With or Without You, you two, purely because I remember, I think it was after we were beaten very easily 3-0 by Man City at the Emirates. We'd gone through weeks and weeks of this inept leadership, or that we'd had the Xhaka incident against Palace, and it just seemed to, week in, week out, we had different decisions and different just strange things going on with Emery, which I won't go into now, but I remember it coming onto my phone on the train home, and I still remember it now. I just think, with or without him, we're still Arsenal. We'll get through this. It was only a matter of time before he went. Yeah, that's why it was on my phone on that day after the City game.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good choice. Very good choice. But you, Chappers?
Yeah, brilliant choice, Simon. I spent my sort of teenage years going to festivals and watching rock bands and indie bands. One of the bands that I really, really used to love going to see was Therapy. Do you remember them? Therapy?
Yes, yeah.
They did that album, Trouble Gum. Brilliant album. Just really angry, but quite melodic as well. And there's an album track on there. I think they released a single as well. It's called Nowhere, but the chorus goes, "Going nowhere, going nowhere." So I chose that one. Came to me very, very easily, and like as soon as that happened, actually, I just dissecting some of the other lyrics. It's like, fuck, did they not write this about Emery? It's like one of the so first line is I never picked you out. One of the other lines is shouting at the world, you'll never change. But it's what's inside you've got to rearrange, like not playing Lucas Torreira, and there's an attacking midfielder.
He's not the new Eden Hazard.
Yeah, exactly right. And the other lyric I'll just comment on is making up for what you never had, losing every single thing you ever had, including matches. So that's my choice. Going
blaming
nowhere,
a white witch.
Yeah, that was incredible, wasn't it?
That was like the best. That like topped it all off. That did, didn't it? Jesus Christ! Every excuse under the sun. No, everyone's fault apart from his.
Who'd have
white
thunk
witch
it?
of
We
a
got
girlfriend.
hexed. They hexed him.
Nutcase. So when they go back after this layoff, all the players are going to have to go and piss on all the goalposts just to get rid of it, aren't they? Or the corner. Right, Jason, what's yours?
Shaggy, it wasn't me. He never.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah,
he didn't take responsibility for the damn thing, and he can go.
Perfect. Perfect.
Daddy's gone. Don't come back. Fuck off. I tried to be nice about him when he first left. You could see it from the very start. The dog shit football during the 22-match unbeaten run. He never tried to improve performance. Didn't make the effort to do it. He got everything he deserved. I tried to be nice about it, but when he starts blaming the players after the fact to save his own ass, he can rot in fucking hell.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my
death. And the weirdest moment in my got to be right up there as the weirdest moment in my football watching history is when Lacazette scored the last-minute equaliser against Southampton, and no one in the crowd or no one on the pitch even batted an eyelid. No one. He almost looked embarrassed about scoring that goal, and that is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And he brought it all on himself. That's just... How can you explain that? It's just mad, isn't it? Crazy. I don't think we'll ever see that again. It's just... I've never seen it from any other team either. Someone so miserable that they scored a last-minute equaliser. And even the fact that we're in that position of having to score a last-minute equaliser against Southampton, anyway.
He's got that mardiness about him, though.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Gav, what's your choice?
Well, surprisingly enough, I'm looking at it slightly different to the Wengerites that you've had before me. Mission Impossible theme tune. Because just quite literally, whoever took over that job was on Mission Impossible. It weren't happening for anybody. The fans were a little bit too quick to get on his back. The players were a little bit too quick to not want to change. Would it have been too early for Arteta? Would he have been too young still, too close to a few of the players? Probably. But it's almost like I look at him as like Bruce Rioch. Yeah. You gave us some good times. It weren't great. You fell out with players. Bruce Rioch obviously famously fell out with Adams and more. Well,
Right.
he in fact fell out incredibly with Ian Wright. Yeah. So
Winterburn.
Winterburn. Yeah, he was gonna sell Winterburn as well.
Yeah.
I saw that as well the other day on the Winterburn thing that he done. I thought that was brilliant, the Winterburn thing the other day. But anyway, yeah, to keep it short and sweet, it was mission impossible. Whoever took over after Wenger was not going to last 2 years.
Yeah,
Not going to last 2 years.
It would have helped if he had any kind of tactical knowledge, but yeah, I totally get your point. But no, he was on hiding to nothing, but he didn't. I don't think he helped himself, by allowing a massive like Grand Canyon sized hole in our midfield, just allowing the opposition to run it out of defence.
It's very, very hard to take over what he become, which was a middle manager. I mean, you went from Wenger, who was an all controller, and then you went from Emery, who come in just in control of the players, and you had people in front of him buying players for him and selling these players, etc., etc. It was a very sort of strange time for the whole club. We lost Gazidis, thank God, and it was ages until they brought in a to prop up the three-man directors team, and it was just sort of literally a season of complete reshuffling from top to bottom from the club. I mean, when Wenger went,
Raúl, wasn't it? That's down to Raúl and the power.
It's all that. I mean, I could go on for a whole show about Raúl, mate.
As well. That's the cunt who's next on the hit list.
If you come back, if you could agree to come back on a show another time in the near future, Jace, we can have a good chat about Raúl, because I've got a lot to say about the guy. But he is a big problem, I think, at the club. Big problem. And we need to, look at. But I'm worried about him. But anyway, I'm going to have to move on. But I do appreciate that, Gav. Completely appreciate those thoughts. And it's very, very valid. Absolutely. I'm not going to say it ain't. Right. This is one that's obviously you need to project a little bit, clearly. But what's your choice for how you see things now under Arteta? Very early days, I know, Si, but what are your initial thoughts on that?
I've gone for
song.
I've gone for Lifted by the Lighthouse Family. More than the first sort of month of him coming in, really, than what's going on now or what I think he'll achieve.
That's a really good
I think
choice,
he'll do good things with us, but that's how it made me feel. Number one, Emery going, but number two, someone coming in, and then the first time he actually spoke to us, and not just understanding what he said, but how clear he was, how determined he was, how focused he was. There was no wishy-washy answers that you could interpret a million ways or the other. He was very straightforward about it all, and I just think that's how he is with his players, and I think it's how he is internally in the club. And I just think the title Lifted. It just that's really how it felt when he came in.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I can't really add anything to that. It's very, very true. What about Chappers?
I struggled with this one a little bit as well. I was first of all going to go with the theme for the Lego movie. Or something.
Someone's
from
been
Hair.
for that, because that's really. Someone's. I can't remember who it was. Who was it? Perfect, because of the his Lego hair as well.
Lego hair, exactly. But in the end, sticking with Irish rock bands, I went with "Boys in the Better Land" by Fontaine's DC. Don't know if you know that tune, but if you don't know the tune, it's just an absolute belter of a tune. Really, it's just absolutely full of energy and spirit and. Si was just sort of staying there, I think when Mikel came in and just gave that first press conference and lifted everybody, you could tell that there was that sort of esprit de corps there. And but the song is kind of really full of energy, but also it's about sort of getting out of where you are and kind of going to a better place, going to a nicer place, somewhere where the grass is a bit greener. So, it's got some good lyrics. Like my favorite one is, "It's refreshing the world in mind, body and spirit. Mind, body and spirit. You better hear it and fear it." So, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully,
well, it was refreshing, wasn't it? Refreshing to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because even like the last few years under Wenger, it was almost like, he recorded a post-match press conference and just kept, just press play on his phone when.
Well, he came so good at it, didn't he?
And God, we couldn't understand. You might as well just spoken, Cantonese for all what we can understand. We're under Unai Emery, and then when we finally, after all these years, got to hear Arteta, it was refreshing and it was nice to hear.
And I think it was the simplicity of his language as well. When he came, it was very clear, very concise. You knew exactly what it was about. He knew exactly what it was about as well. And just going back to the song, it's not necessarily very technically proficient, but it's just an absolute barnstormer of a song. And it's elegant in its simplicity.
Yeah, fantastic. Jason, what's yours?
It Smells Like Teen Spirit, Nirvana. I remember the first time I heard this. The first time you heard the song and just think, "Oh my fucking God, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard."
Yeah,
that's what I felt when I heard this. The lyrics, "I'm worse at what I do best, and this gift I feel blessed, and here we are now, entertain us." I just felt so excited when I heard this song first time.
Yeah.
And Arteta wasn't my first choice, I'll be honest there. But I like the way he's come in, he's owned it. As opposed to Unai, he's come in, he's taken responsibility, he's taken ownership of what he's doing. And I'm bloody excited about what the future holds with him. So, come on, Mickey.
Have you been listening to and watching the Ian Wright phone calls for on his channel, YouTube channel?
I'm going to call you.
You should listen to the one he made to Arteta. Absolutely,
it's brilliant.
So good.
Brilliant.
So good.
Yeah.
He's also made one to David Luiz as well. And what I liked about the David Luiz one was what he said about Arteta as well. That was just so good as well. About his thoughts on Arteta and what he wants to do to the club, the changes he wants to make. Well worth a watch. They're only, a couple of, 5 minutes or so probably per call. He does like 2 or 3 calls per episode. Okay. Definitely have a look because I just love to hear. And the way he said that you should never have to beg a player to stay at Arsenal or beg a player to come to Arsenal. We are the Arsenal. You should want to come from anywhere. And if you don't, then I don't want you here anyway. But words to that effect, basically. But he said, what Arsenal's like, Ian. And so I believed what he said. It was genuine, what he said about his love for the club and the fact that we are the Arsenal. And it was really nice to hear. And it was a change. It was a nice change, and it made you feel proud again, about what he's doing. And I think I genuinely feel excited about having him at the helm.
Yeah.
What's your choice, Gav?
It's not really a song that I think it sums up my emotions. The words don't, but the emotions do, and it's "I Feel Good" by James Brown.
Yeah,
because I I'm not going to lie. I wasn't Arteta's greatest fan as a player for Arsenal, but I did watch him at Glasgow Rangers a few times, and I did used to watch him and see him on the highlights for Everton. And basically, when he came in as a player, he was on his way down. He'd had a couple of injuries which were career-threatening. and he was trying to replace one of our greatest midfielders ever in Cesc Fabregas. No matter what you think of how he left, Fabregas was one of our greatest midfielders.
I don't get how anyone could be angry with that, but yeah.
Fabregas can, he can split the fan base in half. Talking about Fabregas, but it's just how I feel. I mean, as you said, how he spoke in that Ian Wright interview, just said to me, he said when sort of Ian Wright was trying to pull him about signing players and players' contracts and all that, and he said, I can't do his accent, but it was, well, Ian, the first thing I want to know is the player hungry to play for Arsenal? Does that player want to come to the Arsenal? He said, because it's the Arsenal.
Exactly.
If you don't want to play for the Arsenal to start with,
I'm not going to start begging.
Why are we even talking money? And that's that attitude. He's from a player, even though, like I say, whatever anybody says, Arteta as a player in full bloom was an attacking midfielder. We ended up seeing him as a deep playing playmaker almost, which he had to grow into. But I'm optimistic because he's had 2 career-threatening injuries, which he got through. So he's got the mindset to how he got through to transfer to the other players that are going through that and have to go through that. He was a young player playing out of his country, which he did when he came over as a young player from Spain. His tactics look good. His setup looks good. I just love him, and there's nothing about him as a manager that I don't like at the moment.
No, me too. Me too. I'm really glad to hear
got the
you
whole
say it.
thing.
Because, do you know what else was great about that telephone call with Ian Wright? The way Ian Wright brought up Kieran Tierney, and his face lit up. Arteta, and he's talking about his passion and his attitude and the way that he loves to play football and natural enthusiasm, and his face just lit up. It was so good to see. It's like, bloody hell! I love the bloke. I can't find any negatives at the moment. And
exactly. And he's credited at Man City with doing a lot of work with the younger players coming through. And I bet if there was an interview with Sterling would give him a glowing reference as well. So, I mean, you can see he wants the youth to come through. He wants the hungry players to come through. He's Saka, the way Saka's coming through was brilliant. He's pulled in about another 3 players from the youth set up already for the training so far. Like I say, and I feel good because Arteta's doing it, and I feel good because we've got probably one of the best crop of under 21 players coming through the club that we have done for many, many years. Going back to sort of like when Jack was coming through and we won the Youth Cup a couple of times, and then going back to when we were kids, and you've got the Adamses, Thomas, Merson, Rocastle, Keown, all that lot coming through at the same time. And I'm really positive with the young players we've got coming through, with or without multi-billion-pound bloody,
me too.
Like purchases. And Arteta's the man to do it. Arteta is the man to bring these kids through, without a shadow of a doubt.
I'd love to see them all getting proper game time. And Emil Smith Rowe is people are saying, oh well, he's only doing it at Huddersfield. That does my head in. He's not at Huddersfield because that's his level. He's at Huddersfield to make him stronger. Play against real men. There are seasoned professionals, and just get him tougher and build up his strength. And he looks very exciting. He looks.
The
really
Huddersfield players have been really giving him some. Sorry, the Huddersfield players have really been giving him some props as well.
Yeah.
And the fans, and the Huddersfield fans. Huddersfield fans are loving him, mate. Absolutely loving him.
People just think he's at Huddersfield because that's his level. It ain't his level. He's there just to just get his fitness, and he's had a nasty injury. But I've got a lot of time for him as well. So I mean, the amount of quality we've got coming through is quite phenomenal. So I'm really excited.
It's an hour long show on its own, just about to even scratch the surface of the kids we got coming through. But like I say, I mean, Saka, Reece Nelson, Nelson. Well, there's just too many. There's too many of them coming through at the moment, which is good.
We've had Daniel Ballard, Zach Medley, what's his name? Trey Coyle.
Balogun looks tasty.
A Balogun, yeah. But I'm thinking we've had 4 put up into the first team to train with the first team at the moment as well, haven't we? That are looking promising.
Yeah.
Ballard, Medley, Trey Coyle, and who's the other one? Matt Smith, midfielder Matt Smith.
Yeah.
Who looks, they really, really like in the academy. And I'll tell you what, another positive, and we're going to have to move on because I've really got to go. I'm already a bit late, but we'll whiz round the last few questions. But I've completely forgot. Oh, yeah, Per Mertesacker. He's another great positive for the club at the moment. He had a call with Ian Wright as well, another one. And the way he talked about Arteta as well, and his plans for the academy, and the way that he treats the kids is, again, something that we can be really, really happy about. Have you heard that one, Gav? That call?
Yeah, it wasn't as memorable as the Arteta one, but it's you've got what I got out of that is, I was on a podcast on the Bergkamp one a good few years ago, and we had Ballinger, the news reporter, the Sky German reporter or the Spanish reporter. Yeah. And he was saying about the attitude of the youth players from Germany when they start getting through to the first team and they get their first contracts. And he was saying that the young German players, even once they start playing for the first teams, are sort of still a little bit embarrassed to go out and show their wealth or to go out and buy a flash car. He said, whereas the young English kids who are earning 10 grand a week and they're playing for the fucking youth teams are driving about in 100 grand cars. He said it's almost like an attitude. So the fact we've got a German, like I say, and I don't mean this to be any sort of disrespect to any nationality, but the Germans have got a different mentality when it comes to players and bringing players through and teaching players that, okay, well, yeah, you're playing the under 21s for Arsenal, and you're getting 100 grand a year or 500 grand a year or whatever it is, but you haven't made it yet. And it's the German mentality that Mertesacker's got, which I think is absolutely ideal to kick some. Because let's be honest, I mean, we've got let's go back. England haven't won the bloody World Cup since 1966, and we ain't come bloody close, right? And it's because of the fact that the whole setup of English football has been wrong for literally the whole of my life, right? And I'm nearly as old as Jason, right? But that's just how it is. And the fact that we've got a German who's a World Cup winner and he's done it in Germany, he's done it over here. The fact that we've got him who's heading up the academy and he's looking after the coaches, he's teaching the coaches. And from all accounts, from a few people that I know that get access to youth games, etc., he's pretty much hands-on and pretty much in attendance all the time as well. So the fact that we've got a little bit of German mentality into it is just one hell of a positive. And obviously him and Arteta being mates, I mean, come on.
It's what
Do you know what I mean?
Said, yeah.
Come on.
It's what he said about Arteta. He said that when he walked through the door, he was absolutely delighted that we'd appointed him. He was Arteta's vice captain. And he said that when Arteta was So that he said, "I expect you to stand with me and back me up as captain and follow my lead." Basically, words to that effect, didn't he? In that call to Ian Wright, and he was glowing about Arteta as well, and that's just what filled me full of positivity as well.
Yeah, it's the thing. I mean, like I say, I mean, I saw an interview with bloody hell, I can't even remember his name now. He was a young youth player at Arsenal, and he was one of the key players of the youth cup team, and they won the youth cup team back to back, right? And he basically said that all the youth coaches were putting forward players after players to go into the first team training with Wenger, and Wenger didn't want to know. And it's just so refreshing now that there's a connect, and you can see through the players already that Arteta's been playing and bringing into training that there's actually a connect between the youth setup and the first team setup, which for a lot of years under Wenger, that there was a complete. Because I mean, you know, they train in different grounds. They're not even training on the same pitches. They're miles apart between Howland and Colney. But there is now a complete connect. Mertesaker's going to be talking to Arteta and recommending players, and Arteta's going to sort of like give them players a chance.
We're forgetting Freddie as well. Freddie's a massive positive.
Yeah, well, there's Freddie there. There's Thingy as well. Steve Bold about still. It's a thing. The only bad thing that I've heard about the youth setup is the under 16 coaches for the youth setup. They're all contracted on a yearly basis, and due to the virus, none of them got their contracts extended. Which might bite us on the arse in 5 or 6 years' time if they don't retract on that. I don't know whether it's been retracted or whether a few of them have been signed up since, but that came out about a week ago, which was pretty sad.
I can't see that Per Mertesacker is going to let it be really detrimental to the academy. I can't see that. But let's bring in Dennis Bergkamp, for God's sake. He'd be amazing to bring in. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm not going to be able to get through to the last question because we literally run out of time. We've already
do one word answer. Do one word answer.
Go on then. Let's have a whiz round then. What film quickly would summarise what Arsenal means to you? Si.
Watching Arsenal, particularly when I go, makes me feel like a kid again. So I'm going for Peter Pan.
Good one. Yeah, good choice. Chappers.
There was a great music documentary called Anvil, The Story of Anvil, and it's really just about these guys trying to make it in success. They just want to be this amazing band, and it's just the hope that keeps them going, and that's what it's like to be an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got renewed hope every weekend when you turn up and start watching them, haven't you?
Yeah.
Jason?
I thought it was a song we had to give. I went from You've Got the Love, Candy Stanton. And the song,
a
gospel song, but it talks about the religion of the Arsenal and just the excitement of it. Yeah, that was for me.
No, that's great. Yeah, Gav, what's yours?
Very boring. Fever Pitch. Sorry.
Well, you can't. It's almost like a carbon copy, though, isn't it? It's almost perfect.
I can't help it. Yeah, I can't help it.
The music side to him as well, with the high fidelity side of the story.
Great book.
Music and Arsenal.
Better book. I don't often say this because I'm dyslexic, but High Fidelity was a better book than it was a film.
Yeah, definitely, I agree.
Yeah, seconded that. Yeah,
I think the same with Fever Pitch.
I'm not. I'm dyslexic, so I don't often read a lot, but I've read 3 or 4 of. Well, at least 2. No, 3. About a Boy, High Fidelity, and Fever Pitch.
Yeah, I've read those as well.
From Nick Hornby. But yeah, go on. Sorry, I'll shut up.
Get yourself on Audible. I've just listened to the Audible version of Fever Pitch last week as well. It's really good.
Oh, okay. Has he got one of High Fidelity?
Yeah.
I'll give that a bash. Cheers, mate. I'll give that a bash.
That's all right. recommend it. It's I think the book's better all round for High Fidelity and Fever Pitch as well. And I have read About a Boy, but can't remember that one. I'll have to reread that one. But listen, guys, I really, really enjoyed that, and I'd love to get you all back on again and just sort of delve a bit deeper into some of these subjects, because I think we've just scratched the surface on some of them. And amazing considering there's no football on. But these podcasts are proving to be really hard to get through within any kind of decent amount of time, because there's so much to talk about. But I've really enjoyed having you all on.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate that. Sorry again.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Really,
thank you very much.
Thank you, Si.
Cheers, lads.
Thank you. Thanks, Gav. Thanks, Jason.
Cheers, mate.
Enjoyed it. Thanks, boys.
Cheers. Nice one.
Take care, all, and I hope to have you all on again soon. Thank you, everyone, watching. Please give us a like. Tell your friends about the podcast. That'd be really grateful. And tune in next week for another show. Thanks a lot. Take
care.
Cheers.
Oh, we're still here.
Oh.